From a two-room schoolhouse on the King Ranch in South Texas to the top of Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., former Texas Tech University President Lauro Cavazos says education has always been the foundation to his success.
It was a remarkable place to grow up in. I was born back then in 1927. My father was foreman of what was called the Santa Cruz Division of the King Ranch.
Though his father had little schooling and his mother was functionally illiterate, Lauro's parents knew a good education was a must for their 5 children.
It was of the 1930s, and it was a different time. My father got it in his mind that the best school was probably, he really believed, would be that Plato school, that Anglo school. Kingsville had several schools, one for the African Americans, one for the Hispanic kids, and 2 of them for the Anglos, all segregated. Here were these visionaries back in the 1930s saying, I'd like him to go to that Anglo school in town. So my father went in there and bought a lot that he built a house on it. And I could walk to the Anglo school.
After high school and a stint in the military, Lauro attended a South Texas college, where a professor made a profound impact on him. But when that educator left, Cavazos followed him to Texas Tech.
The reason we came out here is that this great professor, James Cecil Cross, became chair of biology at Texas Tech. So I followed him 600 miles. You follow people who can feed you and help you in your education.
It was here that Lauro received his bachelor's and master's degrees in zoology.
And it was the education that I started here at Texas Tech that became the foundation for what I achieved academically. And so therefore, I owe this college a lot.
While a student at Texas Tech, Lauro met Peggy, his wife of more than 60 years, and his partner in imparting the value of education to their 10 children.
Know that we will always stand behind you to help you with your education. At one time, we had 7 of them in undergraduate, graduate, and medical school.
But Lauro always dreamed of one day returning to his alma mater.
I wanted to come back to Texas Tech. I wanted to be on the faculty. This is where I want to go. But I knew good and well I couldn't come here as a faculty member until I had at least a PhD and the other sorts of things and teaching skills that you expect of a teacher at Texas Tech.
After receiving his PhD and working at various higher education institutions, Cavazos finally had the chance to return to Lubbock.
I applied for that job here as president. I didn't think I had a prayer, frankly.
But he did. Just a short time later, not only was Cavazos selected for the position, he was the first alumnus and first Hispanic to become president of Texas Tech, as well as the Health Sciences Center.
As I got to know the faculty and the administration and the staff and the others, I saw their commitment was right there. They made my job easy. It made me look good. I also met that commitment about being a professor. I lectured at the medical school in anatomy, and I lectured in biology because I wanted the students and the faculty to see me as both a teacher, but not just an administrator who really doesn't know what it's like down in the trench.
After nearly a decade at the helm of his alma mater, Cavazos received a life-changing phone call.
I took the call. And it turned out to be the head of White House personnel. And he wanted to know if I would be interested in being considered for the job as Secretary of Education.
After several meetings with White House officials and then President Ronald Reagan,
and the more we talked, we thought this might be an opportunity to do something significant at the national level.
Lauro was confirmed as the Secretary of Education and the first Hispanic cabinet member.
Once I was sworn in, we were working unbelievable number of hours and days, a most interesting time at all.
Building on his life experiences, he wanted to be a champion for quality education for children of all backgrounds.
I was dismayed by the lack of education of so many of our minorities in this country. I had seen it firsthand. I'd seen it at the university. I'd seen it just walking in the streets.
Through it all, there was Peggy, who is as dedicated to the cause as her husband.
And she would read all of this stuff, and she would highlight things that I needed to watch out for, talk to me about these things. So she was as much involved as I was. She was as knowledgeable as I was about education and how we're going to handle it.
Wherever his personal and professional life has taken him, Lauro Cavazos credits the visionaries that started him on this educational path.
So those seeds that my parents planted on us took root. It took root and flourished. So that was the legacy that was passed down from that ranch through my parents to us, to our children. And they have continued in the same way, educating their children.
This is Lacey Nobles for Texas Tech Today.
Now, Jeff here and Lacey put that together. I think they did a great job, didn't they?
Welcome, everyone. I'm Bella Gerlich. I'm the Dean of Libraries. Thank you very much for coming and for this wonderful event. I'm going to get the program started with Dr. Skuzenick. Someone turn the lights up, please.
Thank you, Dean Gerlich.
Lights.
Should I wait until the lights are on?
You are a star after all.
For those of us who are fortunate enough to work at a university, I think we all understand that every day is like opening up a treasure chest, and you never know what jewel you'll get that day. And because of Dr. Preuss and Dr. Monroe, they helped arrange today a visit, Dr. Cavazos and Peggy. And it was really a memorable experience for me. I think you have a sense of what extraordinary people they are. Dr. Cavazos, our 10th president, the first graduate of Texas Tech to become president, the first Hispanic service president. But as I sat there and listened to them, I really felt that I was in the presence of extraordinary, wonderful people. And in some ways, I almost felt unworthy to be in that office. When he was president, it was a medical school, a university, and he was in charge of both of them. And he didn't have a provost. Mike, can you imagine that? And yet he still taught. And I didn't realize really the extent of what a distinguished scholar he was. He spoke about when he was a student here working on his master's degree, his faculty advisor would work till 10 and then he would stay longer. And when he was talking about what he might do differently if he were to do it over again, no regrets, but maybe work longer. But yet they had this beautiful, wonderful family. So what a wonderful, wonderful example you are. When you spoke of the atmosphere and culture of Tech, I'm so proud. I think we have those same characteristics today. I can only imagine how much your children must adore you. But I think you should also realize your family goes way beyond those 10 kids. And I'm sure they're enormously proud of you, even though you did go up on the roof of the chemistry building and capture pictures. Something that we'll never allow today. Dr. Cavazos, on behalf of this entire Texas Tech University community, we're so pleased that you're here again today. We have this chance to give you and Peggy the recognition you deserve.
Hi, I'm Courtney Burkholder. I'm Director of Texas Tech University Press. President Skubinek spoke about every day being a new jewel, and I feel like that about publishing. And this book is a special jewel for us. We were so proud to take it on, and we are so pleased with how it turned out. And that is, of course, what we're doing tonight is having a book launch and celebrating the life of this extraordinary man. Kineno's journey was many years in the making. And he started out working with Judith Keeling. Please raise your hand, Judith. And she worked with him up until she retired. And then Joanna Conrad took over the book at that point. That's Joanna there. The book is a follow-up to another memoir, A Kineno Remembers. And that was published by Texas A&M University Press, but we don't hold that against him. The first book focused more on Dr. Cavazos' professional life, but we felt there was quite a bit more to his story, and that's what this book is about. This book focuses on Dr. Cavazos' family life, his 10 children, and the way they raised their kids. The Cavazoses wanted all the children to have an educated life, be constantly learning, to be open to new experiences, and to travel. And his wife, Peggy, has been a very important part of his life and the family life because she was an anchor. She homeschooled the kids whenever they were abroad so that they would not fall behind. And in a nutshell, this book provides a holistic view of what makes a person live a truly educated life, and just as importantly, pass along the love of that life to the children. Co-author Jean Preuss wrote an essay in the work that provides important context establishing Dr. Cavazos as a leader in higher education and American education more generally. Preuss is an associate professor of history at the University of Houston downtown. This book is a part of our book series, The Grover E. Murray Studies in the American Southwest. Such other notable works in this series are Finding the Great Western Trail, The Wineslinger Chronicles, Agaves, Yuccas, and Their Kin, Texas Quilts and Quilters, and many others. And we at the Press are honored to have published Kineno's journey. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce first Dr. Jim Preuss, and after that, Dr. Lauro Cavazos.
Well, hello. Thank you for coming, and I want to thank President Skubinek and Courtney. I was just a few minutes before I came here, I was at the Press, and John Brock, the marketing director, and I first met when I first came to Lubbock in 2004 and 5. And we worked at the Barnes and Noble when they first opened it up, when it was across the loop from where it is now. And so John and I have known each other for a long time, and it was really an honor to be able, and there's John now, and it was really an honor. And thanks to everybody at the Press, Judith and Joanna, you've been wonderful to work with, and I think the book came out very nicely. And I wanted to work on the book and was very happy when Judith called me up and said, would you be interested in working on this book? Dr. Cavazos, and I read his first book. And in fact, when I was here as a graduate student working my PhD under Janet Heitmiller, who's also here, I was told by Monty Monroe and Ty Kreidler here at the Southwest Collection, there's a collection you need to see, you need to go look at, and it's the Larry Cavazos papers. And they're not all the way accessed, but since you work here, I shouldn't say this, but since you work here, you can look through it. And so I did, and I made an arrangement to go up to Concord to visit with Dr. Cavazos and Peggy. And somebody said, well, you could have gone to Port Aransas. And I said, well, I've been to Port Aransas. I hadn't been to Concord. So I went up there and met with him. It was a little intimidating because he was former president of the university. I had just gotten my PhD. And he was also a former Secretary of Education. So that was big stuff. Although I should say, ever since I was a little kid, I've known people in politics. Since I was 10 years old, one of my neighbors His name was Robert Kruger, actually still is named Robert Kruger. And he was our U.S. representative from my district, from my hometown, and then senator, and then ambassador to Mexico and Burundi, and has been a great mentor and influence and one of the nicest people I've ever met. And he's teaching here at Texas Tech, and he was fortunate. I was fortunate enough to be able to have him come. And so, Bob, thank you so much for coming here. You've been a lifelong inspiration. I know you're teaching a class on, you were talking about heroes and leaders in politics and in life. And Bob has always been one of those for me. I was very fortunate to have in my life growing up people that I really looked up to. And some of them are here, Paul Carlson, and Alwyn Barr, and Larry Cavazos. And from the time I met him and looked through his papers and started learning about him and what he wanted to do, I went up to Judith and I said, you know, he wrote that one book. There's another book. And I talked to David Murrah and others, and they said, well, there's a lot of stories that he has to tell. And I knew that from the first time I met him. And they weren't all in the book. And so there was another book. So I talked to Judith, and Judith wanted to look at it, and then a few years later she called me and said, well, you work on the book with him. I had already written a paper on Dr. Cavazos, and we presented it, and he came to the Texas State Historical Association a number of years ago. And look, I'm an academic historian, and so I wrote, as I was trained to do, you know, very analytical. And somebody else said afterwards, you were kind of rough on Cavazos. You were kind of critical of him. And I said, I didn't mean to be. I thought I was being very nice. But the nice thing about Dr. Cavazos is that he wants, and he is not afraid of, as Lyndon Johnson once said, history, warts and all. When I worked with him on this book, one of the things, he said, I've had a lot of frustrations. There were some things I wanted to do. I don't think this accomplished very much. And I was doing some research, and I said, Dr. Cavazos, I hate to tell you this, but you're wrong. I said, some of the things you did had very lasting impact. And I was able to point that out, and I think I bring that out in the essay. When he became president of Texas Tech, I was telling some people this morning, when he became president of Texas Tech in 1980, the commissioner of the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Committee, at the time it was called, said of Texas institutions, we have one good university, and that's University of Texas. Texas A&M comes in a far second. All the other ones are in terrible shape. And that is what Larry Cavazos inherited when he came to Texas Tech. With a commissioner of education, he didn't think much of the other institutions in Texas. And we were talking today, and I graduated from here, and my wife got 2 degrees from here. And we, Cliff Kingsbury's an old New Braunfels-er like myself, so, except younger than me. But we are very proud of this institution and what it's become and how far it's gone. And a lot of the foundation for that was Larry Cavazos. He looked at minority education at a time when few other people were. It was in 1980 that Time magazine first raised the prediction that by 2030, Texas would be a majority Hispanic state, but few people were willing to believe that or accept that at the time. But Dr. Cavazos had the foresight to see that and to prepare that not only in Lubbock, but also at Washington, D.C. He came in at a time to a president, Ronald Reagan, who had run on a ticket to abolish the Department of Education, which Jimmy Carter had established, previous presidency, and Reagan had called it a bureaucratic boondoggle. Terrell Bell, Secretary of Education, put out A Nation at Risk, and suddenly education became a United States effort that we were going to be better at, that we had to improve it as a matter of national policy and national defense. And Larry Cavazos took that idea and ran with it. He faced a lot of challenges. How do you cut the budget but yet expand on education. And I know he faced frustrations, and yet he pressed on during the Reagan administration and the first 2 years of the Bush administration. He was also probably one of the last of the experts in presidential administrations, as opposed to political insiders and operatives. We've had former secretaries of education now who were speechwriters and political aides, but he was one of the last to be a university president, somebody involved in higher education. So I think that he's important for a lot of those reasons. And one of the things was also getting the states to take a hard look at their educational system and set some guidelines on what education should be. As I found out when I was working here at Texas Tech on my PhD and writing my dissertation that later on became a book published by some other university press that we won't mention again. I found out that in the 1930s, we had a governor in Texas named W. Lee Pass the Biscuits Pappy O'Daniel. And for many of the silly things that we remember O'Daniels for, one of the things that really he pushed on was on getting better schools for our kids. Because it shouldn't be because of an accident of birth that determined on whether or not you got a good education or not. And I think Larry Cavazos did the same thing. I heard from my parents growing up, get all the education you can. My mother went to 6 grades in a segregated school system. My dad didn't finish high school, I don't think, although he says he didn't, but I don't know that they had 12 grades in the school. But they told me, get all the education you could. Although ironically, as I was going on to get my master's and PhD, they kept saying, well, when are you going to finish? So I got kind of mixed messages. But they were always very encouraging, and I thanked them. And so this, for me, is a day of thanks. Thanks to TTU Press and to the editors who did such a fantastic job. Thanks to Bob for being a friend and a mentor for many years of my life. Thanks to Paul and the people at the Texas Tech History Department, and to the Southwest Collection, Lonnie and Janet, H. Allen and others, and thanks to Larry and Peggy Cavazos. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Preuss, and now it's my honor to introduce Dr. Lauro Cavazos.
Thank you very much. What a privilege and a delight it is for me to be here today. I can't walk through this campus without everything, flood of memories that I've had about what a great institution this is, and what a wonderful time we had helping along, making it a little bit better every day. And so therefore, for us to come back for a book signing is great. First of all, I want to make it very, very clear that I couldn't have done it without Gene Preuss. His helping me out on this. He did a great job. It's not easy working with somebody else. I'm not the easiest guy in the world to work with. Neither is he. Kind of a middle ground there. Somehow, from that, because of the outstanding support from Judith Keelan, and certainly the work from her, and also from Joanna Conrad, and all of the people at the Tech Press pitching in to kind of help us out. This came about. I've got to tell you, there's some times when you say, I don't know why I am in this trench. Why? Oh, why am I doing this? I once told Paige, I'll just gather all of these papers and send them off to Monty Monroe. and keep going. And we did. And so I want to thank the press, those editors who put up with us, and moaning, and notes back, and comments, we can't do this, but we got it done. And I owe so much to you folks. You're really, really outstanding. So thank you for that. But then I get together with David Muir a lot to him. We'd sit and talk about, I said, how would you do this? Give me some advice. Where are we going with all of this? And over the years, he's been constant support. And I really, really appreciate what he did. I have to tell you right off the top, I could not have done it without his help. And also Monty Monroe and all the folks here at the Southwest Collection. They're patient, they put up with me. I bundle up all of these great stacks of paper and ship them off. And Peggy said, well, I'm glad to see all those boxes. In the meantime, I've created another bunch of boxes that after Monty read out, I've got some more, Monty. You're going to have to come out and get them because they're there. And so I think that people owe a lot of things to people in life. None of us really achieve without the support, advice, counsel, direction of others. We owe everybody, each other, so much. And so when we gather here to what I will call a celebration of learning, when we gather here at the celebration of learning, we can reflect on what it means to us and what it means to the future generations that will follow us. Now, my life has been very simple. All I've done is learn, teach, do a lot of research, and administering educational institutions. That's not a tall order, but that represents about 60 some odd years of a lifetime of what you're doing going through this whirlwind of academic life. I wouldn't trade it off. I would not do a thing different from what I did because I think we did it the right way. And what I wanted to do in this book, besides coming across on the educational aspects, I wanted to share with you folks the experiences as I journeyed through life with Peggy. She has been my constant support and counsel and love, always there, and the mother of our 10 children. And for that, I am deeply grateful. So I wrote it about my time with her. There's a lot about what she did there. And when you spend 62 years together, you have a lot to write about. You have a lot to think about. You have a lot to say thank you about. We did it. And somehow we did it. There were a lot of times, 10 children. I think many of you know that people that you, why did you decide on 10 children? And Peggy said, we planned those 10 children. And then and I recall when I proposed to her on the Iowa State campus the night before I got my PhD from Iowa State. We stopped by the lab, still running experiments, stopped by the lab, had to finish some things up, and I said, Peggy, why don't we walk out here to this campus? I want you to look around. It's beautiful out there in the evening. We walked out there. And I had known Peggy, of course, when we were students here at Texas Tech. And, we had this wonderful relationship. It was great. And I got out there, and I said, now, Peggy, I think that a 6-year courtship is long enough. Will you marry me? And she goes, ah. And she says, yes. Now, she said, there's going to be a condition. I want 10 children. Now, she said, and if you want to take back your proposal, okay. You're young, of course, that's a great idea. And we got it done. That's the kind of support. You know, we were educated, both of us, at this institution. We had a lifetime. We probably have in the Cavazos family 28, 29 Texas Tech degrees. And, you know, we educated those 10 children. We traveled the world, not the world, we traveled a lot. Because you see, they grew up in beautiful Concord, Massachusetts. Now, they're up to England and some of that area. Gorgeous home, pond, roots, Concord. But we, Peggy and I, wanted our children to know that there's much more to the world than Concord, Massachusetts. And so somehow we worked it out. We traveled to the United States, 6 months in France. We traveled to Europe, Central America, Mexico, all the time with all of these children. And all of this was educated. She tutored them so that they stay in, keep up with their school. So we got it done. And we had cut this deal with them, stay in school, and get you educated, it will help you. And they got their education out of that. I'm absolutely grateful for it. So, I did state with that little video that we saw there that I owe this institution a lot. And I did. But I do, I will never regret it. I think it was an incredible thing. But you see, my life has been a life of family and service and education. I'm going to tell you what I am. I'm also a 4th generation Kineno. That odd title comes with that book. Kineno, what the hell is that? Let me explain. In 1854, Captain King was in Mexico buying cattle for his ranch, the Secretary Ranch in Texas. And the ranch bought the little herd. I don't know how many cattle he had. It must have been 200 or so. And the next morning he noticed that the villagers were kind of unhappy. He said, "Why are you unhappy?" He said, "Well, we don't have any cattle. I paid you a fair price." He said, "Yes, but we have nothing more. Who knows when it will rain again? It may never rain again." He said, "The desert, Tamaulipas." And so he said, "Look, why don't you help me drive these cattle across the river, the Red? We'll go to the Wild Horse Desert, and we'll go to the Saga Trees, the ranch where I have the beginning of my ranch. And I'll make you a deal. I'll pay you fair wages. I will build you a home, and I'll build you a school." You saw that picture. Get that little school. I was a handsome little guy, third was right. And that's where I started school. That started my academic life in this 2-room schoolhouse. And so, for those people that drove those cattle across there, they stayed generation after generation after generation. I'm a 4th generation Kineno. I was born at home on the ranch, not in the hospital, at home on the ranch, like all my brothers and sisters. And so, therefore, I really wanted to tell a story about a great ranch, about a great bunch of people, created and did some things that were truly remarkable. No other ranch that I know has produced a 4-star general, my brother Richard, and Secretary of Education. They had a little ranch down in South Texas, and that's the way it was. So therefore, this is an occasion for all of us to be happy about it. I never dreamed that my life would be as exciting, as fulfilling as it has been for me. So that's what this is about. And I tell about the beginnings, how my first teachers, my parents, and the Kinenos of the King Ranch, they taught me how to live. And so therefore, now many years after I left there, I still remember my father's expectations for me. 3 of them. He said, his expectations, he said, you will educate yourself, son. You will serve your country, and you will never disgrace the Cavazos name. Well, Dad's comments aren't particularly earth-shaking. You know, those commandments there, not bad and not earth-shaking. But I can look backward on now. Decades and decades and decades later, and I think I maybe met some of those commitments. On education, I have 3 earned degrees from 2 universities and 24 honorary degrees. It's not bad for a youngster who started school on a King Ranch schoolhouse, 2-room schoolhouse. That's where it started. And somehow, they went ahead, got it done. I've served my country. Probably graduated from high school, World War II. Enlisted at 17 and left by the time I was 18. I was in service. I've served my country in little ways. 2 presidents appointed me to the cabinet of the United States. What an honor. And I've served on the boards of the Uniformed Services Universities for the Health Sciences and also at the Army War College for many, many years. You know, McDermott, looking back on my attainments in education, public service, and how I have led my life, I do not believe I have ever disgraced the Cavazos. Thank you.
Thank you, that was very inspiring. Thank you so much. Thank you. I hope I can look back someday on my career in education and say as much. Thank you. I want to thank the Tech Press for putting on such a wonderful program and for President Skubanek's words. Thank you. And hope that you'll be able to join us next time at some events that we have coming up. So let me just give you a list of what's coming up for us in October. We have 1984 book discussion groups being led by our librarians. We have flyers out there for you to pick up on the way out. We have Marvel Comics into Film, question and answer discussion with book editors. We'll have books for sale and book signing. That's on the 13th, and that'll be in the Crossan Room. On the 14th, right back here, we will have the Dirk West Cartoons exhibit and opening reception. That should be an exciting night. We have Dirk West's son and family giving a talk, so please join us then. In November, we'll have the library tailgate in the sub. That's for the students, so if there's any students here, that's a great time to get free t-shirts, and it's a lot of fun, and food. And finally, on November 10th, Literary Lubbock is back. So for those of you that have enjoyed that event in the past, we will have a reception and seated dinner featuring 4 University Press authors: Sylvia Gann Mahoney, Aidan Medrano, Sandra Schofield, and Frank Sykes, again with President Skubanek giving remarks, and emceed by actor Barry Corbin. That's 6 p.m. Thursday, November 10th. And that's going to be in the University Crossing, so mark your calendars. So please pick up your handouts on the way out. Join the TTU Friends of the Library, where you'll get invited to lots of exciting events like this one. And have a wonderful evening, and thank you again.